Hey, welcome along. This is James Watt, and you found us, Show Talk, the podcast version. And you're going to love today's podcast because we've got a couple of real legends, actually. We've got Jerry Naylor from the Crickets, and from Buddy Holly and the Crickets, we have Peggy Sue of the song, Peggy Sue. You know the song there. Don't forget to subscribe to this, and lots more will come. And, let's first of all, let's get Jerry Naylor from the Crickets doing a bit of singing.
Hey, Peggy Sue.
Yeah.
Pretty Peggy Sue. I love that. I never get tired of singing that song.
Yeah, love it.
Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. I think someone asked me earlier which is my favorite. That's got to be my favorite.
You're a music legend. You're a music legend. You've been doing it for years. You've got numerous T-shirts.
I have a lot of T-shirts. And I have to tell you, the only thing that's changed is the color of my hair.
Yeah?
Everything else is the same.
When did that happen? When did the hair go a funny color?
It got white. And it just went back to where it was. When I was born, I had white hair. And because they call me Midnight. I don't know how that worked out.
Yeah.
But I guess it was I had a car accident in 1982. So somewhere in the midst of all that, I didn't sing, James, for 17 years because of that car accident.
Wow.
Yeah.
17 years. It put you off somehow. Did something to you?
Well, I had 12 major surgeries, crushed my spine, and I had to get all that put together. But anyway, God was very kind. But what I got out of that, more than anything else, the ability to walk and sing and go around and everything else and be normal again, sort of normal. And what I got was this white hair, and I think that was some sort of a crown thing, something special.
Hey,
because it's like when I was born. I'm sure you don't want to talk about my hair. We want to talk about music.
Where are we talking to you right now? Where are you?
At Oregon State University,
yeah,
and a wonderful facility here. It's 50 miles from my home, and south of McMinnville, Oregon, in the heart of the finest wine in the world. Oregon wine.
Oregon wine.
Pinot Noir, world-class Pinot Noir.
Wow. Are you? Is this a sideline for you? Because I know you're a very successful businessman. Are you into wine as well?
Only the partaking of.
Partaking of it, okay. Well, we're delighted to have you on, Jerry, today. And, can you remember that far back? Because obviously I can tell, because I know your background. Your background is in radio, and you can tell immediately when you come on, hey, here's a radio guy here, off he goes, he's bang, going.
I started when I was 14 on radio, but it was actually... I did it with the KPEP in San Angelo, and there was KDAV in Lubbock. These two radio stations were built by Dave Stone and a couple of other guys up in Lubbock. And my foster father, my mother passed away when I was young, and they were the co-owners of these radio stations. Now, KDAV is an icon because of Buddy Holly and Bob Montgomery. And they were there as I was there in 53 and 54 when the stations were built. And that's how all of this began. I was put into the Louisiana Hayride at 15. I started singing with Elvis Presley got there in 1954. But you had acts like Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
Bob Luman was one of my dearest friends. He started the same time I did. And but everybody been there. Even Hank Williams Sr., going back to 1952, was at the Louisiana Hayride. So it was something very, very special and a way to launch. Tillman Franks was the talent coordinator, and he and my foster father, Joe Treadway, and Dave Stone up in Lubbock were taking young acts like ourselves, like Buddy and myself, and others. Roy Orbison. Roy was in Midland, 100 miles the other way, and doing country swing, and he saw Elvis. There was 3 nights in West Texas, January 5th, 6th, and 7th in 1955, and we were on each of those shows. I was an opening act, and Buddy didn't perform on that, but he did when they came back, but he was backstage. And then Roy was performing as the opening act in Midland. And we each said, that's a change. This is it. This is what I'm going to do. And, no more hillbilly country music. That's what we're going to do.
So rock and roll, because I was looking at the video, the Peggy Sue video this morning on YouTube, and even though it was real radical at the time, wasn't it? But Buddy was, looking nowadays, he was quite square, wasn't he?
He was, but he was square. But he all this was going along in in his head, all these arrangements and all this writing and all the plans, the deep, passionate plan for the music, like Paul McCartney. If somebody asks, where would Buddy Holly be today, celebrating his 77th birthday next Saturday, I said with Paul McCartney. Wherever McCartney would be, they would be tied together, and they'd be producing and writing and singing, and it would be awesome.
How come? And you might be able to answer because you were so close to Buddy Holly and part of the Crickets for such a long, for a few years. What did Buddy Holly have that made him so special? That's made him live on in everyone's hearts for all these years.
It's hard to put your finger on exactly. Boy, I've studied this for many, many decades, and it has to do with his demeanor. It's just the way this young man was born, God's gifts, and his great talent, his amazing built-in talent, and talent for everything. I mean, not just as a guitarist, but as pianos and playing violin or fiddle, but his ability to discipline. Yeah. And to the discipline is the key factor. And had he lived on, but in that short time, Peggy Sue says it best. She says that, and you need to have her say it instead of me, but Peggy Sue says it best. She says that he knew in some sense he might not have a short time, and he was always in a hurry. He wanted to get this done and get it done now. Yeah. And let's get it finished, and then it'd be the best we can obviously do. That's why he influenced so many different people. You don't know for sure what you're looking at, you don't know what you're listening to, but it's something really special, and you want to be a part of that, or you want to be like that. And it's very special. Now
we got you mentioned Peggy Sue there. Is Peggy Sue's around somewhere? Because I didn't realize that Peggy Sue was. I guess I knew she was a real person. I don't know if I ever thought if she was a real person.
Well, yes, she was. Yeah, Peggy Sue. They were all high school pals, and actually, the first time she and Buddy Holly met in high school, he was running around the corner to get into the gymnasium with his guitar to do an assembly. Sing at their assembly, and he knocked her down. Yeah. And he looked down at this beautiful blonde, and he said, I'm sorry, I hit you and knocked you down, but I don't have time to pick you up, but you sure are pretty. And from that, came Peggy Sue, the song, because Jerry Allison started dating her, and then Buddy and she became absolute best friends, and they had a special love affair.
We've got Peggy Sue on the line. Hello, Peggy Sue.
Good morning.
Good morning. Very good to have you on.
Pretty Peggy Sue, my beautiful.
Good morning, Mr. Naylor.
I love you, darling.
Hey, so this is you are Peggy Sue, the icon of that song. What's it feel like, Peggy, to have a worldwide hit all about you, saying how great you are?
Well, it's wonderful, but it's also a tribute to Buddy Holly's music, and so it's just it's a fabulous song, and Jerry Naylor does it so well.
Yeah, of course he does. Of course, Jerry does it well.
Now, here I go. I'm sorry, James. Here I go directing. Peggy Sue, tell him the story about the Sacramento Buddy Holly's on stage, and it's 1957. 1957.
Tell him that story?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Okay, I had been invited to the Show of Stars. Jerry Allison had sent me an invitation through my mother, and I was a senior in high school, so that was the first time I had ever been to a rock show. We didn't have rock concerts back then, and I was sitting in a special seat that they'd arranged for me with a little bit of security, and they announced the Crickets, and they came out, and Buddy Holly sang That'll Be the Day, which was the first time I'd ever heard That'll Be the Day. And then he went to the mic and said, this is kind of a special evening for us, and I have a new release out, and she's sitting in the audience, and I don't know why they just put this under my name, but here goes. And he just went right into Peggy Sue. Yeah. And that was the first time I'd ever heard Peggy Sue. So it was just a big experience in my life. So
fantastic, because there's all sorts of internet rumours, and we need to get to the bottom of this, Peggy, about the truth of it. Because some of the internet is saying that it wasn't originally called Peggy Sue, or is that a load of rubbish?
Well, you know what? I wasn't there when they were writing it.
Yeah.
But if that's really accurate, then every one of those guys, Jerry, Buddy, Norman Petty, Nobody told me.
Right. Well,
So-
we're going with it was for you. I think I'm going to live with that. That's a better story. I like that. I like that a lot.
Well, thank you.
And you fell in love with one of the Crickets.
I had dated Jerry Allison when
Yeah.
I was in high school, a sophomore in high school. And so we had kind of gone steady and broke up, and we'd broken up, and I went away to girls' Catholic school.
Yeah.
And they were still cutting records and going on the road and what have you. So that was, we kind of reunited a little bit my senior year.
Ah, right, okay. And what do you do, Peggy Sue? What do you do with your life now? How's life gone for you? I know it's an impossible question, but what did you end up doing with yourself?
Well, I married Jerry Allison and met Mr. Jerry Naylor, who's on the phone with us. And we toured. We did one-night stands in the 60s and tried very hard to keep the music alive. Unfortunately, Mr. Allison and I divorced in the late 60s. And I went in, moved to Northern California and met another gentleman and had my family and started a plumbing business. And that ended after 24 and a half years of marriage, unfortunately. And moved home to take care of my mother and then my sister. And God knows why, but I'm still in Lubbock, Texas.
Wow. I mean, I like the idea that Peggy Sue became a plumber.
Well, the pay is really good, let me tell you.
Peggy Sue, bless your heart.
We'll let you get off, Sue, but thank you very much for coming on today. It's been lovely to talk to you.
You're very welcome.
Okay.
You guys have a great day.
James, she has a great book, by the way, Whatever Happened to Peggy Sue.
Whatever happened to Peggy Sue? And we're going to find out all about the plumbing, do we? Do you tell us how to do the plumbing in the book as well?
No, I tell you about rock and roll music, which you really need to know about.
Absolutely. We want to know how to rock and roll. We can't forget the plumbing. We want the rock and roll music.
And a very special, never told. It took me 10 years to get her to write this book. It's from her diaries, and it's the very, very best thing. It's the great relationship with Buddy Holly.
Yeah. Because did he have a twinkle for Buddy, really?
They wanted to get married.
Is that true? Go on. You can tell us now. You can tell us now.
We were great friends.
Yeah? Were you more than friends, Peggy? You can tell me.
Well, we were really good friends. Our lives were just changing, that's all, and we just didn't have time to happen.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Peggy. We'll let you get back. What time of day is it at your place?
Oh, it's about... It's about 10 o'clock here.
That's okay. All right. Okay. Good to talk to you. And we'll look out for that book. We'll get Jerry to plug it for you again. No problem at all.
Thank you. You guys have a great day.
Good. Thank you very much, Peggy Sue. And we got, I think that's great, isn't it? Peggy, the real life Peggy Sue is like a living legend, that lady, Jerry, isn't she?
Well, it is. And she really has a great book. And, of course, she tours a lot. And does book signings and talks about she's full of wonderful stories, true stories, of course, of how they all were high school friends, and then of course she toured with us, and after Buddy's death, and she saved my life a lot of times. She was the referee.
Yeah, well, I mean, because we could talk forever. I know we haven't got limited time here, Jerry, but I mean, when you took over as lead singer of the Crickets, you were stepping into Buddy's shoes. How did that feel? How do you cope with that?
I turned it down at first because I was scared to death. I mean, I literally, when Jerry Allison came over to American Music Publishing Company and we were sitting in the little lounge area there, and I was scared to death. I said, "No, Jerry, I can't do it. I don't play guitar. I don't even come close to looking like Buddy, and I mean, I can sing the songs, and sort of we sing alike. I just released a song called "Stop Your Crying," which was pretty much in that whole genre. And so it was Snuff Garrett, who was the producer, and the people at Liberty Records, and Jerry wanted me to do it. And so a guy by the James, the guy that was there sitting next to us was Jerry Capehart.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Jerry Capehart's name is familiar because he's Eddie Cochran's manager, and he was at American Music Publishing Company where Glenn Campbell and I were as well. But anyway, he heard this whole conversation. Jerry Allison goes back across the street, and the street was Sunset Boulevard. And so he says to me immediately, he says, Jerry, you don't have any idea what you've just done. And this group is the number one group in the world. They're the number one, I mean, there's the first rock group that's ever been. Now, this is 1960.
Yeah.
And Buddy Holly, you can definitely do that. Get Glenn Campbell to play guitar for you till Sonny Curtis was going to be our guitar player. And he had been with Buddy earlier, and he was in the Army. But he said, Glenn, you got Glenn, he sings harmony with you. You go do that. So I went across the street, still frightened, and that I would be able to do it. I mean, that I could meet that high bar.
Yeah.
And even sometimes after we started recording. But had we not had the hits, we had Bobby V Meets the Crickets album first. Was one of the first things we started working on. And then came Don't Ever Change. And then, of course, the first tour to England in 1962, the winter of 1962. And that really made me know that I was doing the right thing, and could indeed be successful doing it. But it took me up to that time.
Wow.
And the fans have been so absolutely incredible. Being here this past June and having a fan festival where at least those that we got to see, and it was like a reunion, a precious reunion. I mean, it was like a love festival. It was marvelous.
Thank you very much, Jerry, for coming on this morning for you.
James, bless your heart. We appreciate it. God bless you. And to all the listeners, we love you. If anybody would like to have the new album, and I'll sign it personally, I mean, if they'd like to have that.
Yeah.
And if all they have to do is just send me an email at j.naylor at comcast.net, and we'll make all the arrangements, and I'll sign that. We're going to get it over to them right away.
J.Naylor.
Comcast.net.
Comcast.net. We only touched the surface, Jerry. But there's so much. Okay, we'll need to find out. Come back in, and we'll find out much more. Okay,
we'll do it again anytime.
And there we have it, Jerry Naylor and Peggy Sue, the plumber. It's official. This is James Watt, and it's Show Talk, and that's a podcast. It's a radio show. We also stick this out on YouTube a bit as well, so there's no pictures, but it's on YouTube. Might be easy for some people. Welcome along, and if you want to contact the show, hello at jameswattuk.com, tweet at jameswattuk, and that's about it, really. Do subscribe, and we'll come back next time for a bit more from Show Talk.